Hello, I am Linslow by choice, and thanks for stopping by the channel. We are building Bob's Burgers restaurant and house in The Sims 4, and this is as close as I could get it. The metrics may be a little bit off, and I'm actually really proud of it in the end. Now, there are some things that I added that may not make a lot of sense if you haven't watched Bob's Burgers that much, because I did go ahead and add in some features to like the restaurant or the house or the basement that really are indicative of what happens in the show. And that's because Bob's Burgers really is one of my favorite shows ever. There's nothing about it that I hate. I watch it to go to sleep. I watch it when I just need something filler while I'm doing some work or something. Like, it just is one of the best shows. But right now we're working on the outside, and then we'll work our way inside, putting down some of the main things for like the restaurant. And then the first thing that we complete in this build will be their apartment above the restaurant. But before we get into it, if you have a favorite episode or character in Bob's Burgers, please put that down in the comments. I really want to know. I don't have a favorite character, but I do have two favorite songs. And the first one is Twinkly Lights from the 2-part Bleaker episodes. And the other one is No Pants in Space, when they're auditioning new Boys for Now members. To prepare for this build, I did a bunch of Google searches of everything, but I did have to get a little bit creative, because if you don't know, building in The Sims off of references can be a little bit difficult, but I am trying to make the most of it. And we also don't have like things that work perfectly with the show. For example, just the proportions of the restaurant on the outside can't really make sense on the inside. So we have a bunch of empty spaces, things like that, but in the end it does work. It's just a little bit off. Figuring out all of the details with the outside and how I wanted to make it look, because you know, in English they have Bob's Burgers, but I had to figure out what Bob's Burgers would say in Simlish, and that's as close as I got. Now, is that perfect? No. I would have loved to have like the reopening banners and things hang off of the sign, but I literally don't see anything that could help with that. I only saw like streamers, but they wouldn't really make sense to be grand opening signs, so I didn't do that at all. As you can see, I'm struggling over with Mort's mortuary. That is a little bit difficult for me, but I did find my groove right here with the blue. I think this is probably as close as I could get it, given everything we're given with The Sims 4 and the possibilities of it. Now, the blues might be a little bit off, but we still have that awning there, the beautiful pillars and the double doors. Like, that kind of just makes sense to me. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out what additional detail I can give the Bob's Burgers sign, and so I just added some trim around it using the cutting board that we got. And I can't remember if we got that in a pack or if it was just a base game thing. It looks like it came with the Cool Kitchen stuff pack, so that's what we got that with. Now we're working on the very vacant building to the left of Bob's Burgers. Now, this has been a lot of stuff in the show. It has turned out to be a gym. At one point it was a capoeira venue, and then most recently I think it was a video game or VR experience thing for the town. And Jean actually gets a little duped by it, and I'm so sad. But like, for now, I didn't really do anything in those. I kind of just filled them up with platforms so that when you open the game and you want to go into it, you are really only looking at Bob's Burgers. But I mean, I definitely could have changed it to be something. I just didn't think it was kind of necessary, so I didn't really do it. Apologies. Also, we really don't get what the inside of those things look like, except for Mort's mortuary. There was actually an episode in the earlier seasons where they had to go over and stay with Mort for a day or like a weekend or something like that. So that's one thing, but I didn't think it was necessary because this is Bob's Burgers. We've only seen it that one time. So now we're moving into the restaurant, and I end up going with these tables and these chairs. These chairs we got from the high school years expansion pack. I think the tables we got from Dine Out, the game pack. So those are the things that we end up using, and then I think I end up using the stools from Discover University. But again, I could be off. I'm not completely sure. The countertops are Get to Work. I genuinely have no idea how I keep these things in my mind, but I've been building for so long that I can most likely pinpoint what or where it came from in terms of packs if I can get the vibe of it. So I don't know if that makes sense too much, but I definitely enjoy it, because who would have thought when I first thought about building and posting the content here on YouTube, it was so difficult doing speed builds because I could never really pinpoint where things came from. But now that's not the case. Now that I have a general layout of the restaurant, I start working upstairs with the apartment, and this is the layout that they gave me. I don't know why. I always thought that the kitchen was near the front and it was off the living room. But now every time I watch the show, I realize that's not the case. So as soon as you come up those stairs, you see where that archway is. That is where the living room is. And that's exactly where we're going to start. I noticed that we have a couch, and I wanted to use that couch. I just needed it in a different color, but they didn't have it in a different color. Ultimately, I do end up changing it, so it ends up being the blue couch, and that is the couch that they got when they went to go see the Sofa Queen. I wanted to use something else, but none of them really caught the vibe that I see in the show. So I really just couldn't do that at all. But I do think the rest of it is very close, especially given that we don't have those exact items in The Sims. So it was a lot of me going back and forth between a lot of different things, but I definitely know for a fact that I did that for the couches. But overall, throughout this entire build, I don't think I've taken so much time to do it. Like, I think I was probably working on this off and on for about a week, just because I wanted it to be as perfect as I could make it. And that's given all the limitations and things like that. So I tried my best. I added a little phone right there, even though in the TV show, the phone that they have right there is a burger phone. I just used the one that we got. I think it's from a building kit, so I end up using that. I do have to change a bunch of the things around. Now, I'm going to include some screenshots of the build, but I'm also going to include screenshots of what it looks like in the actual show, so we can see how close and off we can be. In terms of this looking like the perfect living room that you can directly associate with Bob's Burgers, I definitely think this is a solid 7 on my opinion. Please let me know what you think about this living room. It definitely is one of my favorite little spaces, but I did have to make some big sacrifices, and I hope you can see and honor that. You know what I mean? I do end up adding some things that we got from the Nifty Knitting Stuff Pack, and that's those shelves that you see. I needed it to be built into the wall, but that's not something that we have. Now we are finally moving into Tina's room, and Tina's room is probably the most decorated, honestly, and so I wanted to make sure I started it off right. And so we have a pink room overall, but we have to include her desk. She has a small little vanity. One of her biggest interests are horses and making friend fiction. Yes, friend fiction, not fan fiction, erotic friend fiction. So that's one of her things. And so you can see I'm trying to put a lot of, inspiration from exactly what her thing looks like, but also some of her interests, some of the things that they show in the show. I don't have access to those. So I do have to go off of like what I think just a little bit. And so that is where we get this. We have a chair, a desk, we have a vanity area, and then we also have a few other things. So that is her room. Now we're moving into Louise's room, which was converted from an actual closet, and now she has a bed. This is pre-bunk bed. So in here she has a bunch of different posters everywhere. She is into Barobu, which is kind of like Void Critters in The Sims 4, so I do end up adding a bunch of things there. We have a few of her favorite toys. I really just wanted this to be very Louise-like, and so we see blue, purple and green and yellows. So those are the things that we're really working with now. If you can lay down in here, I'm not sure. This was not play tested, and this is solely so I could build something from Bob's Burgers in the game. So I'm sorry. And I have to add a Kuchikobe there. Kuchikobe is actually green, but in this one Kuchikobe is purple because that's the only one that I can make. So the other ones are like little toys and things like that. But she does have a dresser, a bed, an end table, a bookshelf, and then just a bunch of other clutter pieces, including some small toys and the box of crafts that we got from the Everyday Clutter kit. So I do end up adding those things there. I did add this picture frame of a soccer group because there was an episode where Louise actually had to play soccer. They forgot that she was a part of the team until the last game of the season. So I felt like that would be cool to add that. And then also there are a few other things that I end up adding because, she is a young, Louise being the youngest child and probably one of the most different. I think she really is probably one of my favorite characters, but I say that about all of them. But that is it on Louise's Room. This is actually a really great depiction of it, if I do say so myself. Now this kitchen, on the other hand, that was a little bit difficult, but it was only because I think the proportions might just be a little bit off. The table looks bigger in the show than it does in The Sims 4, but that's because I had to use a table that only sits 4 and put 5 chairs around it freely, so that was a little bit difficult. But I will say, every time an episode opens up in a kitchen, I know it's going to be a good one. Every time it opens up here, I know it's going to be a great one, but also that it's going to be one of those episodes that tells us a little bit more about one of the Belchers. Every time I say their last name, I always think about that one episode where someone was like, "Bye, Belchers," and their aunt was like, "Don't call them that. That's not a nice name." And they're like, "That's their last name." And she's like, "Well, you still shouldn't say it." Bob's Burgers overall is just a very funny show, and it's not like vulgar, and I just love it. It's just very wholesome in my opinion. Now those earlier seasons were definitely crazy, and I mean in terms of storyline, but also the characters themselves. It's kind of crazy. I can quote multiple things about Bob's Burgers in the earlier seasons because seasons 1, 2, and 3 are definitely one of my favorites, but that's because they were a little bit more unhinged. But don't get me wrong, I love all of the seasons, honestly. Now we are moving into the parents' room. This room is actually one of the hardest ones. I did actually have to take out one of the doors because it just really didn't work. I don't know how they were able to fit all of those things in the show, but in The Sims, it was just not working. So I end up using this bed, and I think we got that bed from the outdoor retreat, but I could be mistaken. I do end up using the vanity that we got from the cottage living expansion pack, and then adding in a walk-in closet aspect that we see in the show. So this is kind of small, and I wish I was able to do everything I could, but I'm trying to put my best foot forward. I do end up adding a radio. One whole episode is around a radio, and I felt like that is one thing I could just kind of add in their room. Now we're moving into Jean's room, and of all the bedrooms, including the parents, this one was kind of hard because we don't see much of Jean's room. Jean is the middle child, and they're a star, and they have an imaginary friend named Ken, which I actually love Ken. I've never seen him for obvious reasons, but I do like their dynamic, and it's always really fun to hear Bob chime in on those kind of things. But now we're in here, and I end up adding that guitar there. I wish I could have added the piano, but it was far too big, and if you wanted to walk through, I'm not sure if it would have counted it as it being very small or if it would have been the actual size it is. I just shrunk it. So I just opted to move that out, but I do end up adding that picture there that has a piano man. So let's let that be part of it. And then we see, some posters. We end up having a rug, and I just generally keep it pretty messy in here because I kind of feel like that is how Gene keeps his room. It's like an organized messy, but more on the messy side. I did want to add some things from Spa Day because, they have, I think it's Spotter Day, but I didn't. So this is all of Gene's room. I think all of the members of the family are very important to the show, of course, but I definitely see significance in Gene's character. As I'm going through this, I'm definitely noticing that I don't think I caught the filming of the bathroom up here, but I will include it in the screenshot. It is a very simple bathroom. We have a tub shower combo, a toilet, a sink. I just made it so that it looks exactly like the show, or as close as I could make it, of course. And with that, the upstairs is complete. I'm adding in some different lighting options so it's not all overhead, and then changing it out so it's not like the modern ones. Now we're down in the restaurant, and here I had to tweak it a little bit because we do have a window cutout kind of thing, but we do only have it with the chef station that came with Dine Out. So I did have to tweak a few things. I did go ahead and add some ketchup and mustard things out in the restaurant, but now we're in the kitchen and I'm adding some things there. That includes a dishwasher, we have some cabinetry, we have a sink, and then, just a bunch of things I feel like might need to be in a restaurant. And over here we have the shelving space where I just put a bunch of plates, and then I end up having peppers and a bunch of other things. Because this is a burger shop, I probably wouldn't have added all of those things, but because Bob sees himself as more so of like a connoisseur with burgers, he tries a bunch of different things. So I do think it was very important for me to end up adding the peppers and like a bunch of different seasonings and a bunch of other things because he sees it as a craft, and I wanted to really make sure that shows. I do have to say I had to change the layout just a little bit so I could add a bunch of things that I needed, but also we don't have the option to do like a slanted wall from the ceiling, which is actually over by where the refrigerators are. So I did have to make an executive decision on that, but we do have those green floors. We have the wallpaper there. I added a bunch of things over underneath that shelf thing, and we have the hand washing station. I wanted to add a few more signs, but I didn't see any other ones. I do end up changing a bunch of different things around the restaurant, but one thing I'm really proud of is this bathroom. I decided to do the bathroom after the renovation, and that includes 2 sinks on the side and a toilet in the middle. At the reveal of the new bathroom, it looked like they were all sinks in the show, but on the one where he got stuck on the toilet, we saw that this middle one was smaller. And then I just add some things over by that door and then work on the employee bathroom. Although we don't get to see much of the employee bathroom, we only saw it during like a Valentine's Day special episode. But I just kept it very simple. I didn't even put a rack for the toilet paper. I just put the toilet paper on top of the toilet. So this is the way that this ends up looking. I really love this restaurant overall, even with some of the changes I needed to make it very Sims 4 friendly. I still feel like it was one of the best decisions I had made to tweak it just a little bit. And now we are finally into one of my favorite little things. I actually completely forgot about the basement until I started editing the video, and I was like, hold on, where's the basement at? And that's because I hadn't worked on it. So I'm down back in the basement, and I actually decided to furnish this. I thought about doing the one where they had the tub and all of the children were in a rusted tub acting like it was a pool. But I ended up going for the one where they turned their entire basement into a casino, a kid-friendly casino, and Fish Odor basically took advantage of the fact that they were kids and they didn't know anything about money. So I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that is the scene that I actually decorated the basement with. Now we're back outside and we're working on the alley between Bob's Burgers and their friend, not really a friend, But back here, I kind of just took pictures of what I've seen in like some of the alley episodes and things like that with King Trash Mouth. So there is a bunch of trash over on Bob's side. I end up using a lot of things that we got from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack. These things are specific to debug. So if you want to use some debug items in your build, all you have to do is open up the cheat box and then do bb.show hidden objects. And some of these things are bb.show live edit objects, all one word. And so if you want to, you can do that. I do recommend before you place this in your lot that you turn move objects on. That will definitely help because a lot of these things are not centered on a particular place or taking up a shelving space on a service. Some of these things really are freely placed, so you do need to have move objects on. But now we're really just decorating what the houses would look like on the other side of the street. Again, this is the back of the build, so it's not like I'm able to actually do anything back there. It's really just to show that this is just a part of a town. I really wish I could have done more, but we don't have a multi-purpose lot, so I can make multiple things on one lot. So it's not really possible for me to make it so that this restaurant and the apartment functions as that, which I really wish I could, but that's not my testimony. So I am just doing what I can. I really hope you like this. If you do, go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, click that like button, please. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I want you to take a look at these screenshots, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for.